Hello and welcome to Better Body Movement. This class is designed to help you start feeling well.
I have less pain, literally eliminate that pain.
I just feel better.
I can tell that my posture is changing.
Bright light in the day when we've done our workouts online.
Makes me feel so good about myself.
The calf is predominantly made up of two different muscles, the soleus, which lies deep to the gastrocnemius. As you can see here, both muscles connect to the Achilles tendon that pulls on the back of the heel. The gastrocnemius also has two different heads that pass the knee joint to the back of the femur. The gastrocnemius and soleus both work to create plantar flexion, whereas the gastrocnemius also assists with knee flexion. Start sitting on the floor using a foam roller. Begin by placing your calves on the foam roller. Using the weight of your legs, flex and point the foot to create a better release. As you work up the calf, roll the knee outward and inward to get more of the lateral and medial gastrocnemius heads. Continue to work through that tissue for 7 to 10 repetitions on each part of the calf that is tender. Next, use the massage stick. To make sure the calf is loose, use a step stool to lift the foot and allow the muscle to relax. Start near the bottom of the soleus and pull towards the top of the gastrocnemius. When you find a tender spot or a knot, stop the massage stick where it is and create pressure into that spot, creating a jostling motion without rolling the massage stick up and down. Make sure you breathe and relax the muscle tissue. Continue this same process all throughout the soleus and gastrocnemius, even the side of the lower leg, until you feel you've gotten all of the tender spots. Be sure to use firm pressure as you roll the tissue. The muscles running most deep to the soleus are the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus. The tibialis posterior is responsible for inversion of the foot. The flexor digitorum longus runs all the way to the tip of the toes, creating flexion of the four toes and assists with plantar flexion of the ankle. From those illustrations, you can see how the muscles in the lower leg control the toes. To work the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus, we are going to need a lacrosse ball and a chair. With your leg on a hard chair and the foot over the edge, place a lacrosse ball in between the gastrocnemius muscles and press down into the tissue. Work the medial and lateral portions the same way you work the tissue of the tibialis posterior. Press into the ball and pull your foot up while you breathe in. After a full contraction up, drop the foot and relax your breath. Work your way to the medial portions, continuing to breathe during the contract and relax sequence for 7 to 10 repetitions. Then move out to the lateral portions for 7 to 10 repetitions. The calf is predominantly made up of two different muscles, the soleus, which lies deep to the gastrocnemius. As you can see here, both muscles connect to the Achilles tendon that pulls on the back of the heel. The gastrocnemius also has two different heads that pass the knee joint to the back of the femur. The gastrocnemius and soleus both work to create plantar flexion, whereas the gastrocnemius also assists with knee flexion. Start sitting on the floor using a foam roller. Begin by placing your calves on the foam roller. Using the weight of your legs, flex and point the foot to create a better release. As you work up the calf, roll the knee outward and inward to get more of the lateral and medial gastrocnemius heads. Continue to work through that tissue for 7 to 10 repetitions on each part of the calf that is tender. Next, use the massage stick. To make sure the calf is loose, use a step stool to lift the foot and allow the muscle to relax. Start near the bottom of the soleus and pull towards the top of the gastrocnemius. When you find a tender spot or a knot, stop the massage stick where it is and create pressure into that spot, creating a jostling motion without rolling the massage stick up and down. Make sure you breathe and relax the muscle tissue. Continue this same process all throughout the soleus and gastrocnemius, even the side of the lower leg, until you feel you've gotten all of the tender spots. Be sure to use firm pressure as you roll the tissue. The muscles running most deep to the soleus are the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus. The tibialis posterior is responsible for inversion of the foot. The flexor digitorum longus runs all the way to the tip of the toes, creating flexion of the four toes and assists with plantar flexion of the ankle. From those illustrations, you can see how the muscles in the lower leg control the toes. To work the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus, we are going to need a lacrosse ball and a chair. With your leg on a hard chair and the foot over the edge, place a lacrosse ball in between the gastrocnemius muscles and press down into the tissue. Work the medial and lateral portions the same way you work the tissue of the tibialis posterior. Press into the ball and pull your foot up while you breathe in. After a full contraction up, drop the foot and relax your breath. Work your way to the medial portions, continuing to breathe during the contract and relax sequence for 7 to 10 repetitions. Then move out to the lateral portions for 7 to 10 repetitions. The calf is predominantly made up of two different muscles, the soleus, which lies deep to the gastrocnemius. As you can see here, both muscles connect to the Achilles tendon that pulls on the back of the heel. The gastrocnemius also has two different heads that pass the knee joint to the back of the femur. The gastrocnemius and soleus both work to create plantar flexion, whereas the gastrocnemius also assists with knee flexion. Start sitting on the floor using a foam roller. Begin by placing your calves on the foam roller. Using the weight of your legs, flex and point the foot to create a better release. As you work up the calf, roll the knee outward and inward to get more of the lateral and medial gastrocnemius heads. Continue to work through that tissue for 7 to 10 repetitions on each part of the calf that is tender. Next, use the massage stick. To make sure the calf is loose, use a step stool to lift the foot and allow the muscle to relax. Start near the bottom of the soleus and pull towards the top of the gastrocnemius. When you find a tender spot or a knot, stop the massage stick where it is and create pressure into that spot, creating a jostling motion without rolling the massage stick up and down. Make sure you breathe and relax the muscle tissue. Continue this same process all throughout the soleus and gastrocnemius, even the side of the lower leg, until you feel you've gotten all of the tender spots. Be sure to use firm pressure as you roll the tissue. The muscles running most deep to the soleus are the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus. The tibialis posterior is responsible for inversion of the foot. The flexor digitorum longus runs all the way to the tip of the toes, creating flexion of the four toes and assists with plantar flexion.
Hello and welcome to our workout today. We're going to be working on our core routine, so spinal bracing, core stability through movement or range of motion within the hips. So we want to make sure that we learn how to do that in a safe environment in order to be able to apply it in our everyday life. Okay, so that's the main thing that we focus on, is how do we move with better body movement all day long. Try to change out of poor movement patterns and into good quality movement patterns that kind of build us stronger all day long, rather than deteriorating and compensating for years to come and getting worse over time. So some important things that we go over though is our I dedicates. So an inspired intention dedicated to, our inspired action dedicated to an intention greater than yourself, right? So right now, this time that we're together is the inspired action, and we're dedicating this time to these individuals, being Lori, whose mom is doing dialysis 3 times a week. Ethan has stage 4 liver and bile duct cancer, and a young man who just keeps kind of going regardless of what the doctors say. So continue to pray for him and his family through that. My friend's wife, who is diagnosed with breast cancer, and she's treating that naturally, i.e. a lot of prayer. So continue that prayer for her. And then we continue to pray for Kira and Jim. Kira had a lymphatic surgery and radiation, and now is in need of strength and recovery. And her dad, Jim, is kind of in a steady decline after 5 years of pancreatic cancer. So if you have any sort of dedication, someone you would like to put on our board or even mention in the comments, please feel free. We would love to dedicate this time to them as well as we go. Okay, our verse of the day: let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Psalm 19:14. Therefore, meditation should be a part of what our pursuits are through the day, right? The things that we think on, the things that we abide in and move towards. So, Philippians 4:8 talks about whatever is lovely, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is noble, think on these things. And I feel like it's so easy in the world to be bombarded by things that are not that. So therefore, I choose not to watch CNN, Fox News, ABC, NBC. I don't care, because there are big broadcast companies that want to try to tell me what I should believe or what I should be focused on. And it's almost always negative, right? So I'm not going to allow those negative influences into my life. I'm going to think on the things that are just, noble, true. Let the meditation of my heart be acceptable in the sight of the Lord. So that is where I sit, kind of on that verse of the day. If you have anything to comment on the verse of the day, feel free to comment that as well. I would love to hear from you and your thoughts on that. Okay, we're going to jump into our workout here.
Pelvic tilt.
Even though we're on the floor, we are doing hard work today, right? So it's not going to be easy. You should be creating a lot of compression. So this first round, we'll go through that
3,
together
2,
here.
1. Pelvic tilt.
Okay, so a simple pelvic tilt is what we're looking for. So what we need to start with is a Kegel. That means you're cutting off going to the bathroom, right? Strong, firm pelvic floor. Then if you imagine a Dorito under your low back, or I say a belt, compress your spine down to that belt and hold it to where I couldn't come up and pull the belt out from underneath your low back. This is the foundation of all movement that we're going to create today.
That's halfway.
Because when we have a tight brace on our core, it holds the lumbar spine in place. Okay, so think like a girdle. If it was pulled really tight, you have no option of, flexing or extending your spine. It's held and braced in place. So we want to teach the internal girdle muscles to do this for us, and we will be able to increase longevity.
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Break those compensations. That's what we want. Feet together here. Same type of core compression to begin with. Kegel core compression.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
So do that compression. Hold, crush that Dorito, or hold that belt under the low back. Then gently let your knee go out to the side and bring it back up. I am not worried about range of motion here. I don't care how far the knee goes. What I care about is that the hips stay locked in place. So hold the core nice and tight. If you feel your pelvis shift on the floor, that's the problem, okay? Don't let that shift on the floor. Good, tight core compression all the way through. Again, don't worry about speed, don't worry about range of motion, worry solely about maintaining that spinal compression. All the way, tight squeeze.
2, 1.
Good.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, tilt with adduction. Okay, so we're gonna add a foam roller or a pillow, something between the knees that we're going to squeeze. And this is a staged process, okay?
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
So Kegel, core compression, get that tight, squeeze firm, then you squeeze your knees, release the knees, then release the core. Okay? Very, very distinct. I want the core to be able to stay on from the beginning, all the way through the squeeze and release of the knees, and then you can shut the core off. Okay? The whole point is that we get the brain connected to the muscle tissue in order to be able to maintain contraction through both the contract and relax sequence of our movement. Good tight squeeze, firm compression. Again, maintain that spinal compression.
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Knee toward chest. So this is just simply a march. Your opposite foot should be light on the floor.
3,
Do
2,
your absolute best.
Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Again, core tight, compress hard, squeeze firm. And then as you march your feet, make sure the opposite foot is light on the floor. You don't want to be pushing down, trying to increase stability by using your butt cheeks. Right? We're not pushing into the floor with the feet. Okay, firm compression. Always go back to that core compression. If you're not getting it compressed all the way, you're not going to get as much out of the exercise. And that should be difficult. If you squeeze and compress hard, it should kind of take your breath away. You shouldn't be able to just breathe real deep, nice and easy. Right? Core compression is difficult. Okay? Again, march those feet. Very good.
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, now as we bridge, you're going to compress that core nice and tight, squeeze firm, then squeeze your butt cheeks together to
3,
lift up off the
2,
floor.
1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
And we're not peeling like a sticker, okay? So it's not this slow and easy, you know, for it's a straight lift and then set back down. When you set onto the floor, I want you to check under your spine. Okay, check under your low back. See if you can fit your hand underneath your low back. If you can, you know you lost your core. Compress, hold that tight, lift, set back down. Your ribs, low back, and hips should all touch at the same time. That's what we're shooting for. It's not easy. It's not easy. Good, tight squeeze. Again, through the butt cheeks, you're trying to clench that penny firm, firm, firm. Doing your best.
Three, two,
Very
one.
good.
Prepare for shoulder drops.
Erin, very good. Nice of you. I'm glad you joined to be able to ask some live questions. That's part of what we do here. So what I want to do is take a second.
Two, one. Shoulder drop.
And I just want to try to understand what type of pain that is in your leg and what that feels like for you. So if you can kind of explain or describe that feeling, we can give you some good exercises to follow with, okay? But shoulder drops, we're gonna make sure those shoulders come down and back as hard as you possibly can, right? Drop down and back, compress that core really, really tight. We're trying to make sure
That's
that we
halfway.
don't add range of motion through the spine, thinking that's helpful, right? We wanna make sure that we increase, if we're able, range of motion in the shoulder. So to do that, we compress the core, see what we have, return again, that shoulder down and back. This one is all about setting your shoulders into the right position. Okay, we don't want to lose the shoulder position on this.
Three, two,
Very good.
one. Prepare for dead bug.
Awesome. Okay, dead bugs. So again, as we set for the dead bugs, compress that core as hard as you possibly can. We're going to tabletop the shins, and
Three,
arms are doing the same
two,
thing.
one. Dead bug.
Okay, if you've never done these, make sure you start just completely crushing that Dorito with the spine. Tabletop the shins, that just means it looks like a table. You might not extend all the way to the floor. I want you to maintain good tight spinal cord compression. As you do that, right, you might hit a point where as you extend down, you get to a point where your back wants to pop up off the floor, or it arches off
That's
the floor.
halfway.
If that happens, you're extending your leg too close to the floor. You might extend more towards the corner of the building rather than taking your foot all the way down. Okay, this is all about maintaining that spinal compression through the movement. Okay, and typically what we see, especially when it comes from movement or pain down the chains, so the legs and the arms, we need to start
Three,
with what's
two,
centered.
One.
Okay?
Long rest.
Very good. Okay, so a lot of sciatic, a lot of nervous pain that goes down the leg, a lot of muscle cramping that actually goes down the legs can be caused from the spine not having a stable environment to create or generate the impulse that it needs to. So as we walk, all of a sudden the spine either twists or turns, the hip goes into a funny position, creating more of a problem. So we want to always start with core compression. How can I create squats? How can I push? How can I pull with my spine
Three,
braced to provide
two,
a good,
One. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
a really good foundation to create movement, right? Because every force production that we have through the body stems or generates some sort of
Three,
torque or velocity
two,
through
one.
the midsection.
Pelvic tilt.
Okay, so the best way to generate a force is through something that's stable, right? So I always go back to fulcrums and levers. If you have a big rock that you need to move, right? The saying is, I can move any size boulder, just give me a long enough lever, right? But that lever has to be firm, right? I can't move a boulder with a soggy piece of wood, right? That's not going to happen. What I need is a solid piece of steel that can generate or
halfway.
create the kind of torque necessary in order to create movement. So that's what we're thinking from the core. It has to be stable, right? So if you even think the fulcrum, all the pressure that's put down in the fulcrum, you can't have a piece of foam underneath your lever and think you're going to generate an impulse, right? So that's maybe more appropriate to what the core actually is doing. That is the fulcrum of generating or
3,
creating.
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fallout.
Very good. Tilt with knee fallout. Compress that core, squeeze
3,
nice and tight.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fallout.
As we create that knee fallout, again, try not to lose that Kegel or pelvic tilt compression. Right? We want to make sure that's really, really tight as the knee goes out and back up. Firm compression. Hold through the movement. So then another thing that we have is with generating any sort of impulse or movement, we don't want the spine to be flexing in bad positions. Okay, so our legs are going to be generating force production, but we have really good resources actually on Facebook through the Better Body Movement Facebook page. We also have a VIP site, so if you haven't joined that, you can join that, and there's a lot more guides on hip, low back pain, corrective exercises, shoulder corrective exercises,
3, 2,
more in
1.
depth.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Like more in-depth shoulder girdle training. How do we create a new neurological system and pathway in order to create and generate the movements that
3,
we want or need
2,
in daily
1.
life? So I don't
Pelvic
want you to
tilt
miss
with
that
adduction.
resource because it is free. It's all free. Everything that I put out, I try to generate for free, so that way you can just begin to heal and create better body movement. Okay, good, tight squeeze. This time, we're gonna try to create a little more compression. So I want you to think light feet on the floor, about 50% of the weight off your feet. So you're not gonna lift your feet all the way up, right? They shouldn't leave the floor, but
That's
you
halfway.
are beginning that contraction through the hip flexors. So on this one, it would be core tight, squeeze really firm, knees tight, generate that lift just a tiny bit, set it back down, release the knees, then release the core. You're going to generate that movement in a very specific order in order to get the most out of that core compression. Very good. 5 seconds.
3,
Finish all
2,
the way through.
1.
Good.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Awesome. And I absolutely love the questions. I want to be able to answer those the best that I can. So if you do have questions, please feel free to ask. That's the point of being live.
3,
So we
2,
can help you out.
1. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Okay, knee toward chest. Again, the opposite foot on the floor should be light. We're not pushing down to add stability into the hips. We want all the stability in the core. If you're transitioning the stability from the core into the hip, you're now taking away the ability for the hip to move through its full range of motion, right? Because we're taking what should be stable here and putting that stability here.
That's
But
halfway.
the hip joint should be highly mobile. It's a ball and socket. We need to put stability back where it should be, in the midsection. Okay, do your best. And this is a long-term training plan. This is not a short-term, one-time, everything's going to be better. Okay? It's consistent application over time creates incredible change. Okay, so continue to do your best
3,
all the way
2,
through.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with
Awesome.
bridge.
Okay, pelvic tilt and bridge. Again, you're not peeling off the floor like a sticker. Okay, I want you to lift straight up, set
3,
down.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
And 2, to complete that process, you might not lift all the way up, right? Because if you lift all the way up and at the top you start to arch that back, you know you're losing that compression, right? So we might only go 1 to 2 inches. If that's what you need to do that. Okay? We don't want to try to force the hips way too high and then begin arching the back and getting losing that core compression. It's going
That's
to be
halfway.
much harder on your discs but we want to keep that spinal bracing sequence under control. 20 seconds. Okay, do your best through it. Do your best through it. All the way. Again, you want to be thinking pinch that penny between the butt cheeks. One of the greatest 51-cent training tools right here, right? A compressed penny. I want you to take and put that between your butt cheeks. That's what you're making.
1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
And here we go. Good shoulder drop. So again, we're going back into how do we generate impulse through the arms from a
3,
stable environment.
2,
Right?
1. Shoulder drop.
So we can kind of look at anybody in a poor posture and say, oh wow, that's really bad posture. So what do we need to do? We need to train good posture. And that comes from squeezing your lats. So if you don't know what that feels like, think there's an orange or an apple underneath your armpit. You're going to try to squeeze that and create juice. Okay? So get juiced. Not like steroids, but like apple juice, orange juice.
That's
Okay?
halfway.
Shoulders down back. Do your absolute best all the way through the movement. Again, recompress that core. It's very easy to lose the train of thought, not be paying attention, lose that compression. Absolutely, that's what we're here for. Get moving, get the exercises down.
3.
And recompress,
2,
recompress.
1. Prepare for dead bug.
Okay, here we go. Good dead bugs. Again, make sure that low back stays on the ground. If you're doing bird dogs, do not cat
3,
or cow.
2,
A
1.
spinal bracing
Dead bug.
sequence that's really, really firm. This one as well is really, really handy in creating a better stability factor through like a push, right? Because we're generating push through pushing our legs back and creating a torque through our body. So continue to think through, how can I make these movements better? How can I have a higher quality core compression? Think through your movement. Connect that brain to the
That's
muscle
halfway.
tissue. Okay, one simple one is in the bird dog like this, you think you're about to get kicked right in the stomach, right? Compress. Okay, same thing actually on a bird dog, right? So step on your stomach really hard. You want to compress and hold that firm all the way through the movement. Tight, tight, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 10 seconds. Finish strong all the way through. Doing your best, your best. Okay?
3, 2,
Awesome.
1. Long rest.
Very good. What's that? Say it so often, I'm dreaming about it. All right, so we're going to get into round 3. This is our final round. It will be the most difficult or challenging round because we're going to try to hover the feet. So thus far, if you've been able to do each part perfectly fine, core staying compressed, no problem with the low back, we're going to increase the intensity, how difficult this movement is. So pay attention to what we're able to get out of that core compression or squeeze. Okay? If your back begins lifting off the floor, we're doing too much.
3,
Okay, we want to put
2,
that back in place.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
Okay, go ahead and get set up back on the floor. Right, 10 seconds, final round. So again, doing your absolute best. Finish really, really strong.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Okay, so we're just going to prep the movement. Core compress, super, super tight. Now hover your feet just so a piece of paper can go underneath those feet. Okay, just a piece of paper. Not a huge lift. Set it back down, then release the core. Okay, go back into compress, Kegel, core compression, so that pelvic floor is tight, core is compressed super hard. Lift those feet, set them back down, release the core, re-squeeze the core. So the whole point of letting go and re-squeezing is that you can truly connect and
That's
see,
halfway.
okay, I released a ton of muscle tissue and I'm compressing a ton of muscle tissue. If you just try to lift your feet, keeping your core tight, slowly over time you begin to lose contraction through your midsection and you don't even recognize it, right? So I want you to continually recompress, hard, firm, hold tight, hover those feet, set it back down, release the feet. Okay, squeeze,
3,
firm, firm, firm.
2, 1. Prepare
Awesome.
for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Cool. Tilt with knee, fall out. So again, recompress that core, making sure it's tight. Don't let the pelvis move with your leg.
3,
Right? Just the leg
2,
in and out.
1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Okay, so sometimes it helps to think even like gorilla glue along your entire spine, right? So shoulders even are glued down to the floor, core is glued to the floor, your pelvis is glued to the floor. There should be no change from neck through down into your pelvis. The only thing moving is in the hip joint. Okay, compress harder. Okay, again, think of belly
That's
whack,
halfway.
bowling balls dropping onto your stomach in this position. Tight compression, firm squeeze. Every time that knee comes back up, make sure you recompress that core. Go back out, bring it back up. Really challenge it by trying to hover the feet through the movement. That really changes how much you can get out of this as far as range of motion. Right? Because your body wants to fall over when you lose that point of contact. But keep
3,
compressing.
2, 1.
Good.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
All right, tilt with adduction. So grab a foam roller pillow, just something between the knees.
Good. How about yourself?
And this is a 6-step process. Do your
3,
best through it.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, here we go. Tight core compression. Squeeze as hard as you can. Squeeze those knees. Lift the feet to a hover. Hold. Set the feet back down. Release the knees, keeping the core tight. Then release the core. If you're doing this right, or if you've never done it, oftentimes when you go to set the feet down and release the knees, the core just wants to let go with it. Maintain spinal compression. It's a whole different set of muscles that create spinal compression versus what creates movement.
That's halfway.
So we should be able to create new neurological pathways connecting the brain to that muscle tissue so it fires more readily and more rapidly all through the day. But we have to train it. You can't just expect that your core is going to get tight. You have to train it. Okay, good, tight squeeze. Again, thinking through the process, right? Hold that core tight. Almost there, 5 seconds. Finish
3,
it out.
2, 1.
Awesome.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Very good. Okay, tilt with knee toward chest. So again, you're gonna hover your feet. This one, it's really easy to try to move both feet at the same time. Just remember, you're hovering
2,
it
1. Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
and then move one at a time. Okay, so hover, one up, back down to a hover, other leg, up, back down to a hover. If you need to pause between each one, reset the core, hover the feet, that's fine, because again, it's not about creating movement, it's about creating stability through difficult movement. Okay? Re-squeeze, compress, harder, harder. Okay, again, think I'm just right beside you and I'm about to step on your stomach.
That's
Okay?
halfway.
Tight squeeze, firm compression. Hold and brace that spine as hard as you can. If you think you're squeezing hard enough, you're not. Hey, that's okay. Don't worry about how much you can get today, because again, it's progressive. It's continuous, consistent exercise. We're doing these Monday through Friday, live at 9. So
3,
do join
2,
us. Continue to
1.
work at it. Right?
Prepare for
It's
pelvic
okay
tilt
to
with
stop
bridge.
the exercises. Oftentimes, even I know Lois here is one where some days we do one round and say, that's all I've got today. Right, Lois?
3, 2,
It's okay.
1.
The biggest,
Pelvic
most
tilt with
important thing
bridge.
that we have is changing the way the body works. If we never change it, you can't expect anything different. Okay, so that it should be your encouragement. Keep going. Try it again tomorrow. Do what you can. Change the way that you move each and every day to help your body get better. Okay, here we go. Finish out with us, nice and strong, core compressed. And again, you can always revert back to feet down, right? You can revert back to, we don't hover
That's
the feet or
halfway.
move the feet at all. We just focus on core compression, right? So we could try that. Just give me a compression. Just a compression. Don't worry about the movement, right? Can the core get tight? Can we squeeze, right? I say often, our challenge, right, is going to be equal to our change. So if we're expecting this great big change, all these things to change in our life, we can't have this much challenge,
3,
right? We have
2,
to really challenge
1.
the body
Prepare
to
for
create
shoulder drops.
a big change. okay? If it's not that, if it's simultaneous, it's equal, right? We always expect that the effort, the challenge, should be really small and I should get all
3,
sorts of big rewards.
2,
And it just
1.
doesn't work that way.
Shoulder drop.
Here we go. Good shoulder drops. Remember, as we go through this, we're trying to return our shoulders to that stable environment. I don't want my arm to return to the ceiling and my shoulder to be in my ear, right? Pull the shoulder down and back out of that ear. This is where we train tall posture. The reason why I don't do crunches and have you doing flexion motion is we spend all day in a flexed position, shoulders rolled forward, crunched up here.
That's halfway.
We want to train our bodies how to maintain that tall, tight posture through core compression, not doing this. I've never really used that in my daily life trying to move or push or pull or sit or bend. I don't, I want to maintain tall posture in spine, right? Make sure that is protected first. Okay, here we go. Almost done. We have one more
3,
exercise after
2,
this.
1. Prepare for dead bug.
Okay, do your best through the movement. Okay, it's just that you try, right? It's that you try. Sometimes on these, we don't even lift our feet. We'll do like a
3,
pull one
2,
up and
1.
push through the opposite,
Dead bug.
right? So you can leave your feet on the floor. Pull one up, push with the opposite, set back down. Right? Whatever you need that's a challenge is what's going to bring change. So you don't overextend, you don't hurt yourself through this kind of process. You build yourself up, slow and steady, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. I haven't used that one before, right? We have to build brick by brick, right?
That's
Set the
halfway.
foundations for all your movement across time. That's where you want to start, okay? And be convinced right now that your best is enough, right? Your best is enough because we're going to build on top of today. We're going to get to tomorrow, build on top of tomorrow. Here we go. Good, good, good. Almost done. Finish strong all the way through.
3, 2,
Very, very good.
long rest.
All right. Hey, awesome work. I do really appreciate you guys joining us. We do this Monday through Friday, try to give you the best training absolutely across the board for moving well throughout the day. We want to change your body positions. We want to change the pain that you feel in your life because when you do that, we know that you're more effective for those around you. We care more, we're able to do more, and we can go out and help the world rather than adding some sort of negativity to the world. We want to be positive about what we're doing. So again, if you guys have questions ever, please ask. Leave a comment down below. We will get back to you. We're going to try to do our absolute best for you. We'll also begin sharing our private Facebook group for Better Body Movement. In that, there are all sorts of documents. There are videos for corrective exercises. There's health questionnaires. There's daily food journals. There's guides to fat loss. There's guides to, what else do we have on there? Restaurant, eating out, just different things that you can do to change there, okay? So we want this to be a slow and steady process of change, right? So one thing that happens a lot with workout routines is we try so hard, so fast in a short period of time. We end up working out, maybe 10 hours. We end up getting injured. Our body begins to hurt, and we're like, oh, I just can't do this. And then we start failing off the wagon. I would rather you work out 1 hour a week for the next 52 weeks. You'll have 52 hours of workouts done rather than the 10 hours of I'm hitting it hard, I'm going crazy with it, right? Add slowly, consistently to your day. So you do have options. We are live 9 Central, Monday through Friday, trying to provide this level of work for you. We will go into SMR next, our self-massage work that is always tailored on the principles that I know as a licensed massage therapist who does medical myotherapy. These techniques are techniques that are used every single day by myself in order to help people get out of pain. So because you might not be able to experience my hands-on, this is the next best thing. We do have a playlist right on YouTube from head to toe self-massage at home. I want you to go there, check things out, find the pain that you maybe have, or continue on with us today as we finish out. Okay, remember, as always, you guys, I am here to help you move well so you live well.
The calf is predominantly made up of two different muscles, the soleus, which lies deep to the gastrocnemius. As you can see here, both muscles connect to the Achilles tendon that pulls on the back of the heel. The gastrocnemius also has two different heads that pass the knee joint to the back of the femur. The gastrocnemius and soleus both work to create plantar flexion, whereas the gastrocnemius also assists with knee flexion. Start sitting on the floor using a foam roller. Begin by placing your calves on the foam roller. Using the weight of your legs, flex and point the foot to create a better release. As you work up the calf, roll the knee outward and inward to get more of the lateral and medial gastrocnemius heads. Continue to work through that tissue for 7 to 10 repetitions on each part of the calf that is tender. Next, use the massage stick. To make sure the calf is loose, use a step stool to lift the foot and allow the muscle to relax. Start near the bottom of the soleus and pull towards the top of the gastrocnemius. When you find a tender spot or a knot, stop the massage stick where it is and create pressure into that spot, creating a jostling motion without rolling the massage stick up and down. Make sure you breathe and relax the muscle tissue. Continue this same process all throughout the soleus and gastrocnemius, even the side of the lower leg, until you feel you've gotten all of the tender spots. Be sure to use firm pressure as you roll the tissue. The muscles running most deep to the soleus are the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus. The tibialis posterior is responsible for inversion of the foot. The flexor digitorum longus runs all the way to the tip of the toes, creating flexion of the four toes and assists with plantar flexion of the ankle. From those illustrations, you can see how the muscles in the lower leg control the toes. To work the tibialis posterior and the flexor digitorum longus, we are going to need a lacrosse ball and a chair. With your leg on a hard chair and the foot over the edge, place a lacrosse ball in between the gastrocnemius muscles and press down into the tissue. Work the medial and lateral portions the same way you work the tissue of the tibialis posterior. Press into the ball and pull your foot up while you breathe in. After a full contraction up, drop the foot and relax your breath. Work your way to the medial portions, continuing to breathe during the contract and relax sequence for 7 to 10 repetitions. Then move out to the lateral portions for 7 to 10 repetitions.